Christina.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good.
What's going on?
Nothing. Just trying to focus on the lesson.
Okay. Well, how's it going so far?
Good. So far, so good. I've noticed, you know, she does really well in fluency, so I've been having her do, today I had her read 2 chapters aloud, but usually it's just going to be reading silently. And every once in a while I'll have her read a page or two, because her fluency is really high. The area that she lacks is comprehension.
Yeah,
so,
and she's in secondary education now. She's making that change,
she's
right?
6th going into 7th grade. Yeah.
So that sounds totally appropriate.
Yeah, so she's doing good. She's a pleasant student, fun to be with. So. Yeah,
so what can I help you with today?
Okay, so in my lesson, we're going to be focusing on sharing personal feelings and making a connection to the text. So I decided the book we're going to be using is called The Great Migration. The reason I chose this book is because during our assessment and her personal writing experience, she discussed a time that was hard for her, something that was memorable was when she did move. She moved away from her best friend. Even though she's still in contact with her, they just live a couple towns away, that was a hard time for her. So my area is activating the prior knowledge to go along with this book. So that would be the skill. We're going to be doing, the lesson's going to be a writing lesson, but the focus skill would be activating the prior knowledge.
Okay, so that was a huge event in her life. And
Yes.
that's probably something that
It's very memorable for
Very
her.
memorable.
Mm-hmm.
So her schema should be really interesting, and especially when she applies it, like the text-to-self strategy that you're using.
Yes.
So I think that's very fitting. Has she had problems in the past with comprehension?
She, in her folder, it did say that comprehension was one of her weaknesses, and speaking with her mom, she also said the same thing, was an area of concern. So, like I said, after we did the assessments, her spelling was good, her vocab seemed okay, it was just the comprehension that she seemed to struggle with the most.
When you were given the CRI, did you notice that she was having a problem with a typical particular type of comprehension?
The reason I chose this book is she seemed to lack in expository text. She had a problem with informational. Narrative she did okay with, so that's why I'm trying to focus more or less on the expository, and then it just happened to work out that this book actually goes with something that was one of her most memorable experiences from the writing assessment. So it kind of like tried to make the connection there. So
that's a really nice bridge between her own experience and something
that
expository text that can help activate her understanding.
Right.
Okay. And so, what will she be doing while you're trying to activate her schema?
Okay. So first she's going to read the book silently, and then from there we're going to discuss the information in the book, you know, interesting facts, that kind of thing. And then in the back of the book they have a nice kind of area that it says, if you were to move to a different location where all the things that were familiar you had changed, how would you feel? So from that is where she's going to do her writing. Okay. So as we're discussing the information from the book after she reads it, I'll ask her comprehension questions to go with the story. So
you're going to just let me make sure I have this straight. So she's going to read silently, and then you're going to ask her to pull facts from the story.
And then also personal connections. So, for example, if I ask her one of the questions, you know, how do you think that made them feel when they were moving? You know, and then relate that to her. Well, how did that make you feel when you were moving? So they're making the connection to the book, how they felt when they were moving, to how she felt when she was moving. You know, was she upset? When she did her writing assessment, she said a big part was leaving her best friend was hard for her. So we can kind of relate that to the book. You know, how do you think they felt when they had to leave their family, or how do you think they felt when they had to leave their friends?
Yeah, show her that background knowledge to kind of understand.
To relate with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds like that's very fitting. What will you be doing while she's reading silently? So as she's reading, I'll be asking questions throughout. So I would have read the book prior to her reading it. So when she gets to certain pages, I'll make notes. So as she's going through, like for example on this page, you know, I might say, it says, refers to the mass departure of African Americans. Something related to that, I would come up with a question related to this part, or, let's see, if you look,
this book isn't broken down into chapters, so it would have to be every couple pages ask comprehension questions that go with what she had read. So just to monitor her as she's reading, comprehension-wise.
I remember last time that we met that you had said something to the effect where it was difficult to know where to stop her because you didn't want to break up her comprehension.
Right.
So,
and it's kind of hard with this too because it's not broken into chapters. Or at least the last book that we did, it was broken into chapters, so I knew where to stop. So this I'm gonna go through ahead of time and maybe put a post-it where I think I could ask a question where it wouldn't interrupt what she's going with. You know, and then relate that also to the personal connection.
And then if you got a response from her at that point, that would
based on from her response, if I'm, you know, interrupting or her comprehension or where she's having an issue, then take it from there to see how it goes. So, like I said, this one's a little harder only because it's not broken up into chapters. So I'm going to go through ahead of time and put where I think a question would go that really wouldn't necessarily interrupt her in her reading.
And so when she answers the question, will she be responding orally, or will she? Okay.
Yeah. No, I'll just have her respond orally for this, and then we'll do the written response based on the question that goes with the text.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll just do those orally.
Okay. So you told me what you'll be doing first. You'll be trying to activate her schema, and you told me
we're going to make predictions too, and also what we're going to start is I'm going to show her the book with the title. Now she's never read this book, so we'll make predictions about what we think the book's going to be about. We'll discuss information. You know, what do you think the word migration means? Where could they possibly be moving? Who do you think the characters are in this book based on what you noticed from the front? And then she'll read it and we'll discuss the information. And then after we did all that and did the comprehension questions is when she will then do the writing, which is share personal feelings and make a connection. So she's going to relate the information she read from the book and personal experiences to the question, if you were to move to a different location, were all the things that were familiar to you and changed, how would you feel?
Okay.
What would you miss the most and who would you miss the least?
So, and then you'll know whether or not she understood
or was able to make a personal connection based on her response from this. So this is going to be done. She has a marble notebook that we do our writing in or answer questions, anything. So she's going to be doing that in there.
Okay. And so what will you see Dominique do or hear from her? What will she be saying to indicate that your lesson is successful?
Okay. Based on her, I would say based on her responses, I'll be able to tell if she's made a personal connection or not. So for example, if something's read in the book and she's not able to respond, to make a connection, if I ask her a question that has to do with her personally, she won't be able to answer that. So based on her responses, I'll be able to tell whether she's able to make the connection or if she's not. Which, you know, this book, she might not be able to make a connection to certain aspects of the book, but she is able to make a connection to the whole, I guess, part of the story, as far as the moving part.
Is there any way that you can kind of bridge that gap between what she does know and what the author is trying to convey in this book?
I mean, based on, like I said, what she said from the writing, how she had a hard time, so I can relate that to the characters in the book, how they were feeling when they had to move. You know, one of the things that it said back here also was, what would you miss the most? What would you miss the least? So, you know, she'd already shared with me the one thing that she missed the most. So I know that that would go along with this in that part.
Yeah, definitely.
So hopefully... And I noticed too here that they wrote a letter. So I could also say, you know, when you were moving, did you write your best friend a letter? Did you write anybody a letter? Kind of to coincide with this part.
Yeah. I love letters. Like looking at the beginning of this book here, this letter here is, I just think so beautiful to see somebody's handwritten word instead of a text or an email.
It says 19, you can't really tell, I think it's 1918.
Yeah.
So from something so long ago.
It's beautiful.
Which her, I think hers was, I think she moved, I believe she said in her writing that it was last year, so.
I wonder if she'll be curious enough to read.
To see.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to read. it's kind of hard to read because it's in cursive handwriting.
Yeah.
It's not really so neat, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay, so what will you look for to clarify that she understood directions? Through each stage, because you have a bunch of stuff going on. So.
Right. So the comprehension questions will be based on her reading to see if she understood that, and then her writing, what her final writing is, will reflect if she has a personal connection. So she's going to be writing information based from the book, but also her own personal experiences. So I'll be able to connect the two to see if she actually understood the importance of making the connections to the book.
Okay. So with her already experience in moving and the expository writing, the connection should hopefully, ideally, come together.
So we'll see based on, like I said, on her final writing, we'll see how it goes, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. Do you have any questions before?
No, I think for right now, we'll see how it goes. I'll probably have questions after.
Yeah.
After it goes and, I didn't know what to do here, or what should I did there. But I'm going to go through, like I said, my biggest concern at this point is I don't want to interrupt her comprehension. So where's a good point to stop, since she is reading silently, and that's not something I'm familiar with, because I'm used to I teach third grade, so the kids do most of their reading out loud. So, it's easy to stop, and then where do I kind of go with that? So.
Well, I like how you're going to read it beforehand, because I think that, like, we often have common experiences as our students. So I think that while you're reading it, you'll be able to decide.
Kind of figure out where. That's why I want to go through ahead of time, put a post-it, this might be a good area, where it kind of shifts thoughts or ideas so that it won't, get her confused. Or kind of throw her off of her thinking.
Yeah, it's good pre-planning.
So, okay.
All right.
All right, good.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.